It occurred. I think it's actually Dembele's boot that catches the lid as he's on the floor. It wasn't actually...
From terrible collisions on the pitch to almost catching a direct flight to heaven. Literally, these are the football players who almost died. Football players are known to be some of the most passionate people. The love they have for the game and their team is unreal, to say the least. But are they passionate enough to risk their lives for the game? Well, Fernando Torres definitely is. Back in 2017, Atletico Madrid was fighting with Real Madrid and Barcelona for the La Liga title. You might remember how Real and Barcelona absolutely dominated the league. For Atletico to win the league, every single game counted. So, when Atletico Madrid faced Deportivo La Corona, ambitions were at an all-time high. The game was tied at the 85th minute mark, and that's when the unthinkable happened. While the ball was in the air, both Torres and Alex Bergantiños jumped to get it into their possession. However, instead of the ball, they hit each other's head first. While Alex was quick to make a recovery, Torres had a nasty fall and hit the ground really hard. The game continued for just a brief moment, and then everyone realized that the fallen player wasn't moving at all. Suddenly, all the players gathered around Torres and immediately called for the doctors, while another player grabbed his tongue immediately so that it didn't block his breathing. Atletico's manager Diego Simeone was visibly pissed at first, thinking that precious moments of the game were being lost. But he realized a bit later that he might lose a player forever, something much more precious. The paramedics immediately transported him to the hospital, where the doctors confirmed that the player had suffered from a head injury. They began taking care of him and put him through some tests to assess the extent of damage, and thankfully he was soon stable. After spending a night at the hospital under close observation, he was discharged the next day. But the doctors warned him not to go to practice for at least 2 days. Thankfully, none of our fears came true, and Torres made a speedy recovery and played for 2 more years before announcing his retirement in June 2019. While we are discussing near-death experiences on the pitch, we need to discuss Christian Eriksen. Imagine representing your country on your home ground, and right at that moment, your heart stops working. The chances of that happening would be close to none, right? Well, that's exactly what happened to Christian Eriksen. On June 12, 2021, the stage was set for Denmark to hold its first ever international football tournament. Fans from all over the country gathered at the stadium to watch their national team play against their rivals, Finland. But instead of a normal football match, they witnessed something much more than they paid for.
To make his way in for Finland. Play is going to be halted again, and this does look serious.
At the 43rd minute mark, Eriksen responded to a throw-in strangely. For the spectators, the man had dived without being challenged by the opponent team. Even everyone on the field wondered why he would do that. However, after taking the fall, he stopped moving completely. And at this point, one thing was clear. This was something serious. Simon Kjær, the captain, rushed to Eriksen to assess the situation, and after just one moment, he immediately called for the medics. The crowd and players were visibly worried, and there was a lot of anxiousness in the crowd. The captain also ran to his goalkeeper, who was trying to comfort Eriksen's wife. Imagine what she was going through. She had gone to support her husband's play for his country, but at the halftime mark, you are left wondering if he's even alive. As the medics arrived, the players formed a barricade to give the player and the medical team some privacy, who were seen giving CPR to the player. The whole stadium was silent as they anticipated the future of the footballer.
And this is a country with a social conscience, and they can see the bigger picture.
After what felt like an eternity, Eriksen was moved to a stretcher and rushed to the hospital. While the doctors at the hospital tried their best to bring the player back to life, the match referee resumed the match from where it had left off. Finland won the match, but the whole world couldn't care less about that. They all wanted news about the hospitalized player. Then, in a surprise, the Danish Football Association announced that Eriksen was fortunately alive and responding well to treatment. So, what was the mysterious cause of his fall? Surprisingly enough, the player had suffered from a heart attack on the field. Morten Boesen, a medical doctor who was part of the team and who took care of him, said, "He was gone, and we did cardiac resuscitation, and it was cardiac arrest. How close were we? I don't know." Imagine almost losing your life in the stadium. I would be terrified of it and wouldn't dare do it again. However, the story wasn't over for Eriksson.
Location number 8, Matthews Nixon. In number 21, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Almost 9 months after his fall, the footballer returned to the sport in a match against Newcastle United. And like a fairy tale comeback, Eriksson represented his team in the FIFA World Cup 2022 at the same stadium he collapsed in. Talk about a redemption arc. Now, let's move on to the near-fatal incidents outside the pitch. Arguably, the greatest of all time is among the unlucky few who almost lost his life in a car accident. Pause the video right now and comment below which player I'm about to name.
This is Cristiano Ronaldo's £150,000 Ferrari, and it's a write-off. This after he crashed into a metal barrier in a tunnel near Manchester Airport at around 10 o'clock this morning.
Yep, the player in question is none other than Cristiano Ronaldo. The story comes from 2009 when the Portuguese player crashed his Ferrari while he was on his way to the training center. The reason for his speeding? He was late for training. Yep, you heard that right. Ronaldo is a human after all. We're all familiar with how strict and disciplined the footballer is regarding his career and physical health. So it's naturally a shocker that he was late in the first place. Back in January 2009, he was playing for Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson. Ah, the glory days, am I right? Anyway, one morning he woke up to his phone ringing instead of the alarm. Who was on the phone? It was the angry manager asking him why he was late for training. Understandably so, Ronaldo quickly changed his clothes and hopped into his supercar, a Ferrari 599. He was racing his way to training, hoping to reach there on time, but you know what they say, right? Slow and steady wins the race. He wanted to meet his manager, but instead he almost saw the light. While he was in the tunnel near Manchester Airport, he lost control of his car and crashed into the tunnel walls. Edwin van der Sar, his teammate at the time, was just behind him as well. He saw the whole scenario unfold before him and thought, surely that's the end of an era. The car was totaled from the front, and a few eyewitnesses claimed that, in a miracle, the player came out of the car completely unscratched. Ronaldo then went to inspect the damage and waited for the authorities to reach the scene. While discussing the subject, a club spokesperson said, "He was involved in an accident this morning. No other cars were involved. He's fine and is training as normal with the team this morning." Now, imagine if Ronaldo didn't make it. The story of football would have never been the same. Messi would have never faced competition. So far, we've talked about almost losing a player, but imagine almost losing the entire team. On the 10th of January 2024, the football world almost faced its biggest heartbreak of a story. The entire Gambia soccer team passed out on a flight. Shortly after the team got onto a flight for the Africa Cup of Nations tournament, almost everyone on the flight slept or passed out completely. Seeing this as unusual, the pilot quickly made an emergency landing back to Banjul Airport. When they touched the ground, everyone was escorted out and a few players were knocked out completely. Things were serious. From the looks of it, so serious that a few players wouldn't even budge and they needed medical attention. Everyone's curiosity was later cured when Air Côte d'Ivoire, the airline responsible, explained that a portable pressurization unit had caused a lack of oxygen in the cabin. Later on, Sadie Janko, a player from the flight, gave an insight from the cabin as well, when he shared on an Instagram caption, "The inhumane heat mixed with the occurring lack of oxygen left many people with strong headaches and extreme dizziness." The player added, "We want to fight and die for the country on the football pitch, but not off it." Thankfully, everyone on the team recovered and went back to their hotel to recover from the tragedy. The next day, they took a flight from a different airline to reach their destination. I'm sure you would have done the same. So, what do you think? How would you have reacted if your favorite footballer lost their life right in front of your eyes? Are there any other ones that we should know about? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more.